July, the Mandela month, so it's a month to open up one's mind and learn about your surroundings. Monday it is, it's 22 after 10. My very special guest tonight on the Power Seat. Let me welcome Jack Scott. He's a co-founder of SOTRU Identity and Communications, a secure communications platform designed to help businesses verify exactly who they are interacting with by combining decentralized identity and encrypted messaging. SOTRU prevents digital fraud and enables trust in every online interaction. He is also co-founder of SubjectX, an ed-tech startup that empowered over 25,000 South African metric students with access to relevant academic information and master classes from world-class teachers. SubjectX has partnered with leading organizations and received recognition from the ANC Progressive Forum for its impact and innovation. Jack is passionate about using emerging technologies to break down digital barriers and create equal and exciting opportunities for people in Africa and beyond. He is committed to continuous learning and to building connections with like-minded individuals in this disruptive technical world. Let me welcome my guest tonight. Jack, how are you? Welcome.
Hello, Tich. How are you doing? Thank you so much for having me on tonight. I'm really looking forward to the conversation.
So am I. Welcome to the show. You know, you're possibly a very, very important person to have around about this time. Many great and strange things happening in terms of identity theft and such miscellaneouses. What made you team up and start SOTRU?
Well, as a team, there's three of us, Max Coleman, James Clark, and myself. We realized that fraud is rising in South Africa and globally. And the reason for this is business communication is broken. Channels like email are extremely insecure and lack security. But more importantly, verification of your counterparties is completely siloed from communication. So you verify a supplier as you onboard them, but then you communicate with them over email. So there's no real link between the two. What we realize is there's a huge gap in that market, and that's where SOTRU came to about.
Yeah, no, I get you. So the gap you saw with traditional KYC and KYB checks is what you're trying to solve right now, especially when it comes to that moment of payment, right?
Exactly. So what we realized is that fraud essentially is hit most specifically when sensitive information is shared. So fraudsters look out when there's invoices shared, banking details shared. They intercept that, and they are trying to basically attack those vectors where any sensitive information is shared. The classic scam that I think we all well aware of is we've changed our bank details. Please, can you pay into this account? So SOTRU essentially just lets the recipients verify the sender's business information as well as banking details before any money moves.
Okay, no, I get it. So how does it actually work? What kind of system is this?
So we are built on decentralized identity, and essentially what happens is as a business is onboarded onto the platform, they acquire two digital identities. A business identity credential, which is the cornerstone credential, you can call it. This houses all the necessary information, such as the registration number, the business name, tax number, and this is all verified against the CIPC, the South African Business Bureau. We also verify all business directors directly against Home Affairs, as well as perform a biometric check, and that's also stored in the business identity credential. And the second credential is we compare all that verified information against all banks within South Africa through our partners and confirm that that bank account is indeed linked to the business. What happens is we take that information that we've verified against golden sources, we cryptographically sign it into a reusable, verifiable credential, which you can very easily share to your counterparties, as well as request your counterparties in one simple click.
Okay. So how different is SOTRU from traditional onboarding verification and standard email security tools?
Great question. So as mentioned before, we combined verification and communication. We don't separate them. every message that's sent through SOTRU is bound to a verified identity. So you know exactly who the sender was, where the message comes from, and who sent it. Now, traditional KYC and KYB is done once. It's a single point of verification. And then it leaves you insecure when you're actually communicating over email. Now, if you look at email tools, they help you guess suspicious messages, phishing attempts, but they can't prove the identity of the sender. So trust can no longer necessarily be assumed. It needs to be verified. And it's at the moment that it really matters.
Okay. So with high-profile breaches, examples are like the Standard Bank and NHLS in South Africa. How is SOTRU designed to stop fraud that uses stolen identity and the exchanging of banking details?
Well, let's look at Standard Bank in particular. If you look at that case, what were the fraudsters actually wanting to do? They were wanting to gain access to the client's account so they could impersonate them, either through invoice fraud or some form of impersonation fraud. And at SOTRU, we prevent this by ensuring that all messages are bound to an identity. So you know with certainty who sent the message and where it's coming from.
Okay, yeah. So you're targeting high-risk sectors like property, construction, logistics, and legal. What makes these industries most vulnerable these days?
Well, fraudsters target the highest value as well as highest volume metric industries. So a good example to use is if you look at the ENS. So that's a law firm within South Africa. And what happened with them, there was a fraud attack a few years back where a buyer paid 5.5 million rand for a house to a fraudster as they were posing to be ENS. And essentially what happened here was the email was intercepted, the banking details on the actual invoice were swapped, and the money disappeared. Now, this case actually went to the Supreme Court for appeal, and sadly, the buyer was held responsible for not verifying those payment details. Now, what this essentially means is that large sums of money are essentially entrusted on the strength of email alone. Now, one message, one email, one WhatsApp, that can cost a business or an individual's millions of rands.
Okay, all right. So SOTRU launched out of beta in July 2026 with 40 plus active users and interest from about 7 countries. What did you learn from beta that shaped the product that you have and use today?
So I think we are a very customer-centric company, I have to say, and it did confirm our hypothesis that currently within South Africa, verification is still very manual. And our core hypothesis is that verification and communication are completely separated in most firms that we interacted with. Users specifically said to us that they wanted a very simple way just to understand who's on the other side of the screen and verify and collect the necessary information. So we worked closely with these users and are currently still working with them to keep things simple, but most importantly, keep things secure. So the current product is shaped by the people faced with these problems on a daily basis.
Okay, SOTRU was named an international winner of the 2025 Irish Tech Challenge out of South Africa. How did that recognition help accelerate your roadmap?
I think it greatly modified our roadmap. Ireland showed us that the problem that we are facing in South Africa with regards to these type of fraud vectors is not just local, and it's rich cross-border trade. We want to be able to verify counterparties anywhere, regardless of the jurisdiction. So it's definitely pushed us in terms of the roadmap to move to international communication as one of our core direction points.
You're doing something special. You're offering free accounts to South African businesses for a limited time period. What's the thinking behind removing cost as a barrier to adoption?
Well, what we realized is the businesses that are most at risk are not large enterprises, they are small to medium enterprises. Big companies and big firms have large budgets for compliance teams and lengthy verifications, but SMEs just don't. And a lot of the SME economy is paying fast and they're going through informal verification checks. They will confirm bank accounts over like a WhatsApp call or a rushed email, and that exposes them to a lot of risk. So what we really want to do is we want to remove the cost to let smaller businesses secure their transactions too. And we've always believed that small businesses has always been a central a cornerstone of what we're trying to protect in South Africa.
Jack, your roadmap includes call identity verification. How will that help businesses neutralize deepfake and voice cloning, which is quite rampant these days?
Yeah, no, great question. I think everyone's fearful of AI and what AI can do, and AI is significantly increasing the amount of fraud that's going on in the world. AI means that you can't necessarily just trust email and WhatsApp anymore, but you can't trust voice and video calls. The likes of deepfake and AI cloning means you don't know actually who's on the other side of the line. I mean, we had a client the other day say that they were actually their voice was actually it was cloned and sent to one of their existing clients.
Okay.
So what we essentially are trying to do is we want to build a voice and video calls directly into our platform where you can automatically share the verifiable credentials in call to confirm who you're speaking to real time. So closing that gap from a phone call to verifying the identity of the other person on the line.
Can you explain active credential monitoring? How does it alert businesses before a fraudulent payment is about to be done?
Yeah, for sure. So currently KYB and KYC current processes are a single point. So they verify you once off and you store it in some CRM or database. But businesses change, directors move, addresses change, bank account details change. So what we're building into the platform is an ability to periodically re-verify that data in the credentials to ensure that you're always dealing with the most fresh data. We're also exploring something called real-time verification. So when you're about to make a payment, you can also request the latest data before you pay. That means you can catch any changes or discrepancies in payment details before a payment goes out, not after.
Okay, so Jack, the automated risk and compliance layer is planned for Q3 this year. How will it support FICA and other compliance requirements for South African businesses?
So what we've seen is for many firms, the FICA process is very manual and can be very slow. But a lot of the times it can very easily go wrong. So what we're trying to do is build a layer that handles that for you all in the background. We are already collecting a lot of information for businesses. We verify against trusted sources such as the bank account information, business identity information, as well as consumer information. And we keep all of these verifications in a fully audit trail, meaning that compliance comes as a byproduct of using the platform and not necessarily a burden.
One of the things that are happening these days globally is invoice manipulation, fraud. How does SOTRU plan to scale trusted verification beyond South Africa into places like United Kingdom, Europe, America?
Well, Tich, as I said earlier, fraud is a global problem and AI is just making matters worse. So what we've done is we have built our platform on international standards and protocols from day one, and we're expanding our stack as we build. As what we're trying to do is we want to be able to integrate into all other digital identity ecosystems across the world. For example, we're aligning our stack with the EADAS digital identity ecosystem in Europe. And this is legally mandating that countries and citizens have to have digital identities by the end of this year, as well as we've been following the South African digital identity ecosystem. So this interoperability enables cross-border trade, and that's exactly where the highest risk sits.
Oh, wow. All right. So beyond SOTRU, you also co-founded Subjects, which created 25,000 metric learners, which reached 25,000 metric learners. How did building in the ed tech shape, how did that approach help you improve what you're doing with SOTRU now?
I think how it approached, I think the best way to answer this is if we look at South Africa, we have many problems within the actual, let's call it ecosystem and economy itself. But I think innately, I think South Africans have always come up with solutions for those problems. So the way in which we came up with the EdTech was basically out of COVID, where educational materials weren't necessarily accessible to South African students. across the country. So we came up with a solution to create online resources for them to summarize the entire matric syllabus where they could consume and they could educate themselves going into their final matric exams. And very similarly with SOTRU, we realized that there was a huge problem with the way in which businesses were communicating online. And we saw that there was a big gap in the way in which the information was being shared and they were being exposed to a huge amount of risk. So the information, or I think the learnings I gained from subjects was mainly trying to find solutions for hard problems.
Yeah, okay. Well, Jack, thank you for being part of tonight's very important, informative conversation. What's the long-term vision for SOTRU? Where do you want the platform to be in the next 3 to 5 years?
So I think the reality is fraud is evolving faster than many businesses realize. And I think every business, big or small, needs to rethink how they verify suppliers and payment instructions. And I think a few simple process changes supported by secure technology can dramatically reduce the risk of paying the wrong person. Now, in terms of our 3-year vision, as I mentioned before, the platform, what we're really wanting to do is enable cross-border trade. Whether you're verifying a counterparty in China to buy a machine or buy a property in Mozambique, we want to bring certainty to those deals so that there's less exposure and more trust in them. I think the bigger vision, very simply put, is a world where you can transact with anyone and know with certainty who they are.
My very special guest tonight, thank you once again on the power seat, Jack Scott. He's a co-founder of SOTRU Identity and Communications, a secure communications platform designed to help businesses in Africa and